want to give props to everybody that the name of the Florida governor was never mentioned during this show. Good job, guys. We'll see you next week.
All right, everybody can unmute.
I had to send us in the chat room.
Right. That was awesome.
Wow.
That was
I hope
Great
I
job,
didn't piss
Tony.
anyone off, but I think
I know we needed like at least 20 more minutes though.
I can't
Like there
believe
was
how
a
quick
lot
we
more
did
that I
too.
wanted to say.
I'll
You know,
just
you
say
have no
that
idea
went-
how many years I was confused about what I saw in elementary
That
school.
that went
At the
really fast.
Philadelphia
Is
Museum
all
of
I'll
Art.
say. That
Philadelphia
seemed
Museum
that
of
the
Art.
time just flew by, guys.
That's an interesting topic.
Wow.
We should do a
we
part
can hear
2 on that one.
guys. Okay.
Let's hear some recap from some of the Zoom guys. What y'all?
Okay, Steve, what do you think, Steve?
Well, I agree with a little bit and disagree with a little bit of what just about everybody said. However, as I just mentioned, you may not have heard, I kind of agree with Bob. I was real confused in elementary school when I went to the Philadelphia Museum of Art with a lot of things that we were readily allowed to see. But I think that the restricted area of a library, allowing the book, but putting in a restricted area of the library is analogous to the movie motion picture restrictions. And that might be a way of getting around it.
Excellent. Thanks, Steve.
No,
All right, who
that
next?
was the thing I wanted to bring up. That was, because there are.
Okay,
we have
Ted,
them.
we got-
Ted,
We
want
got to
know
hear
Ted
from
thinks.
Ted.
Yes,
Where?
Ted.
What happened today? What? The Giants lost. What are you talking about? Oh, books. Oh,
Hey,
Are you
hey,
waiting
on there.
Hold on, I
hey,
gotta give Ted-
read the
I-
chat room. Talk to Don. Read the chat room.
Hey, Ted, I've got to give you the introduction though. When I said we were going to talk about this, Ted said, "What a banal topic to have."
Banal, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
no,
you're right.
banal. Excuse me.
Because I think it's just a sign of another sign that we live in the age of fear, or the age of anxiety. We're worried about the worst. We're worried about our kid walking across the parking lot when they get to a store correctly. We're worried about what they see on TV that's going to influence them. When the kids already have their own political views and outlooks on certain things, from sex to relations with girls to how to play sports from their smartphone. I think we overreact. We try to pen them in, too much helicoptering over the child's activities, and we don't let them discover their own things on their own and make their own decisions. Okay, including books like Kill a Mockingbird. There you go.
Great book.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Ted.
What?
Who's ready next?
Ollie, what do you think?
I think that Bob wasn't clock watching enough. My goodness. I
Yeah,
really,
what'd you say?
Stand for it.
I'm biased, but I really
I didn't
feel
have
confident both
Joe
on the
Boy,
right-
no offense, and Michelle like trying to interrupt me. I spent a good minute. Like, can I finish? Can I finish?
Well, to be fair, I did notice that the timer was off, and there was a time when Monica's counter was going, but Joe was talking.
Ah,
Thank you.
yeah. That
There you
sounds
go.
really suspicious.
This is my son who actually does the timer. I see. It's a scam.
And in
Yeah, I didn't
interest
think
of-
Monica had that much. We're going to subtract a minute and give it to Joe.
in the interest of
Okay, Peter
equity,
Gallo. Peter Gallo's in the room. Peter, say something. Tell us what you think.
You're fixated on the
Peter.
content of child libraries. I was more interested in the concept of censorship in general for things like the Anarchist's Cookbook, which I used to have a copy and I can't find it because I was going to hold on to be reading it.
I've got one.
Come on, Peter.
It's online.
Yeah, but the question then becomes, because the argument is that should it be possible, or should the information about how to brew up napalm on your own kitchen stove be
Right.
restricted? All right. The government insists
laundry
that
detergent and gasoline.
we have to control the purchase of firearms because they're dangerous and people can get hurt. Well, okay. By comparison, then, what about the recipe for making napalm?
Exactly.
Or black powder, gunpowder, which is something you can brew at home. One of the ingredients, of course, is stale urine. and I didn't actually know how long you have to leave the urine around before it goes off. But these are things I dare say you're going to have to learn by trial and error. All right.
You have to try it out, Chris.
Have you tried, Peter? How many of these are?
That's hilarious.
Sorry, I didn't get that, Michelle. Say again, please.
I go, how many of these recipes have you tried?
There's a trick to brewing up napalm on your kitchen stove. And I'm not going to tell you what it is, just because.
Okay, pool guy. We want to know what the pool guy thinks.
A number of people will quite happily blow themselves up with it. There you go. And I'd rather they blew themselves up in their own home rather than they went out and blew up a school bus. But then again, that's just me.
Okay, pool guy, are you going to be able to unmute?
Yes,
He's
I can unmute. Yes. Sorry. Yeah, it's all about age. You know, you don't want your 3-year-old, 5-year-old, 10-year-old having sexually explicit access to stuff that I don't even want to read myself. Does that mean I don't want them to read it, you know, ever? No, I just want them to get it at their own pace. I don't want it forced on them. I don't want them to have access at what is clearly a premature age.
All right.
Well, that's way too rational. Of course, that's what everybody wants. The problem is it gets injected in your face. You can go to a rock concert and see something on somebody's t-shirt. It's all about context and whether people understand that sometimes people making a statement does not necessarily force them to change their idea of what they should be, man, woman, or how many women they should have in their lives. So that's what it's all about, is just realizing that people express themselves. Sometimes it goes out of bounds, and the kid can handle it. All kids can handle it if you just explain it to them and not run away from it or hide it in the corner.
But if you
you'd have to be involved as a parent then.
Yes, you do. Yeah, imagine that. You have to pay attention to your kids. Gee, imagine. Yeah. Hey, what's going on today?
I will say this, the book ban in Utah is very interesting. And this is what takes me back to my original statement about control, is because the book ban in Utah, even though they utilize this similar language that the Florida statute uses, all of the books that they have made an effort to really pull were written by women or are about women's health or, you know, our sexuality. That was done intentionally, which goes back to Jeff's point about it being political. I think all of it's political, but I don't.
That's religious, not political.
There's one thing though. I think we're trying to make it look like there's one thing. I don't think it's just one thing. There's a censorship issue here, which is a control issue. Somebody said something about age. I can't see who's talking, so sorry. Somebody said something about it being about age. I agree with all of that. I think it's all of these things. That's just, I think
it's political, and people are beating themselves over the head. And I think that both sides probably have a little bit of a point that most people would agree with. But everybody takes it too far, and we're listening to the extremes. Like you said, the moms of liberty, you know, Joe Boy's soon going to be starting up the dads of liberty, you know, whatever.
So Don brought up a point. Don asked me in the chat to go, at what age? Okay, well, it's a really good question. What age? Some kids need it at 16, some kids need it at 10. Information about what goes on in life. And I say, well, what do you say to the farm kid at the age of 4, sees the bull mount the heifer, and 8 months later, a calf drops on the ground? What are you going to tell that kid? When's that kitty? When do you relate it to human sexuality? Joe Boy said a couple of years ago about something forced on kids about homosexuality. And at what time is that appropriate? Well, sometimes it is inappropriate, but you have a parent, as a parent, have a duty to express and put it all in context so the child understands that it's either a joke, a threat, or a piece of satire, or maybe a personal choice, but that person's personal choice, nobody else's personal choice.
Thank you. Good point.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, it's not the parent that's making the decision. You know what I mean? It's one of those where it is the libraries, it's the school board, it's all of them. I mean, you know, there are certain PACS committees to where they make the determination of whether those books are going to be in the libraries or not. It's not up to the parents. It's up to the parents to make a challenge or not. But at the end of the day, it's not their choice they didn't get to decipher what I want in there, what I want. They're not the judge. You know,
Ollie, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts, as I was trying to say earlier, was that you, Joe, went well over your 30 seconds.
That's not the first time that's happened.
I actually was looking, I thought maybe I could possibly even do the mute thing on the Zoom, but I was afraid it would cut everybody off.
That's
Thank
too
you.
funny. That's
Yeah, for
hilarious.
I'm also
everybody else, he
interested in
goes
the
like
question of
this.
No, I did it for
censorship.
me. Everybody went over a little
No,
bit.
but you didn't do it for yourself.
Right. You didn't
No,
cut
Monica
it
was
off.
spot on at 30
I did
seconds.
it all this job because I didn't want to be seen that I was, hey, make him shut up. I don't
Well,
want
them
him to do that. So I was nice.
Yeah,
That's my girl on phone 3. Where'd she go?
What?
Okay, Don, what do you think? Donald. tell me
Wow.
what you-
First of all, I want to say everybody was great. Awesome. I love this. We probably have to do a part 2 on this one right away. Because
Can
Michelle.
we
and-
exclude gender queer if we do a part 2?
Yeah, we
we've
have
already
to do a
that
part
one to
2,
death,
man.
right?
Regardless.
Maybe
let's do
it's
a part
time
2.
to get into
You
Shakespeare,
can
the
do more
Bible.
than 2 on this one.
Right.
This
Yeah.
goes to the question
Well,
of control
well,
things
well,
like pornography and the legal definition of pornography. The best one ever being, it's difficult to describe, but I know it when I see it.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the Supreme Court, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
The law
That's
in
why I
Hong
need
Kong,
an
I can
explanation.
tell you from having spoken to judges on the subject, was it was illegal to publish something that was obscene, but it was not illegal to publish something which was just indecent.
Grabbing the whatever. Just
So how do you differentiate indecency from obscenity?
Can you find it underneath your dad's bed?
Yeah.
There was an interesting legal test applied. I'm coming down in a couple of weeks. If you fill me with liquor, I might explain how it was done.
My dad kept his in the little stand next to the bed on the left is where my dad's,
Yeah,
My
I already
favorite-
put that in the
All
chat.
time is
Oh, I get, yeah, but it was Playboys, and I'm not sure how much that taught you about sex. And when Penthouse came out, that was a little different story.
Well, I still need the Philadelphia
Jeff
Museum
remembers
of
that
Art
time fondly, I'm
expansion.
sure, correct?
I remember all times fondly.
Let me make a quick point that one thing that we have, because back in the day when we didn't have all the information or the computers and everything, we had to write letters and read books, and that was the gospel to us when we were coming up. That's what we had to believe until someone pointed out or someone had more proof. Now today we have the internet, we have all kind of stuff. We can actually fact check the stuff that we're reading faster than anybody else right now. Because back in the day, you had to take it as a gospel. You read a book, you read an article, and that was it. And you couldn't fact check it. And it takes months and months. And you're probably practicing whatever you saw, whatever you heard, whatever your parents put on you. You didn't have that available to us. That's one thing.
Assumes in which case you're assuming that the general public are capable of fact checking anything.
Well, I'm not everybody.
They're not.
But I'm saying, but you have that ability.
I'd like to find
You'd
out.
have to wait for a letter to come like 3 months later,
I can join just for shits and giggles, really.
Right. You didn't have to wait 3 months later to get an answer, or get a letter from somebody to prove that what they were saying was true. That's all.
Or you could go to the periodical tables.
Oh my
Spend
gosh.
hours trying to find something, but if you want to fact check it wasn't worth
You
the
know,
effort.
I want to, with this topic made me think of something because again, I always like all of this is great part of this conversation, but it made me, has anybody seen the movie, The Book of Eli?
Was coming up.
Yeah.
Yes. One of the last major fundraising.
This really made me think of the Book of Eli because
I say that your
he
donation.
knew the power of the Bible. All he had to do was get his hands on the Bible in order to get people to follow him because none of those people knew it. They didn't, they had read it. He knew the power. There's a part of me goes back to my original statement where knowledge is power. You need dumb people. And I know part of this is about, parents don't want, but at the same time, when we talk about the government getting involved, you need dumb people so you can rule over them and make these rules and these statutes and these laws so they don't know any better. So I immediately thought of the Book of Eli when I started thinking, okay, I know there's so many positions to this topic. Mine kept going back to that. I think it's just because I just finished grad school, but still, it's just like, that movie was just so poignant, I think, to part of this discussion. It just made me think of it.
Thank you, Monica.
That was awesome.
Eliminate those books. I mean, nobody's
All
trying
right,
to.
Jeff, would you like to say any final words before we kind of close out the wrap up?
Yeah,
He could get some time in.
Yes, we got to make up. You got 3. Yeah, go.
Monica's got double your time.
No, she
No, she doesn't. Monica's counter's all jacked up.
Gotta
she's
get
working.
phone 3 in. Phone 3 has to say anything.
My favorite book ban attempt throughout history has always been Fahrenheit 451, because it just underlines how the people attempting to do that do not understand irony at all.
Yeah.
That's
You're
it.
exactly
That's all.
right.
We didn't hear
God,
from
catch
phone 3.
22. I mean, all sorts of them that.
In North Dakota in the 70s, a school board physically burned copies of Slaughterhouse-Five because it had homosexual themes. Now, I'm guessing everybody here's read Slaughterhouse-Five, right? I mean, it's a mega classic.
Yeah, Monica too deep for you guys. Yeah, I can't believe you don't have read Slaughterhouse-Five. Yeah. Okay, keep going.
I'm racking my brain about what they could possibly be talking about. It just, I think that book banners and close-minded ideologues will find their boogeyman under every rock.
Well, that's not true. If you especially look for them, oh yeah, especially go hunting
I
for them.
respect your opinion. I'll respect your opinion, but I still think that I should be able to have some say of what my kid is being brought to when I'm paying taxes for them to put it in the schools. And when people are giving them free books in order to be able to get their message to kids, I'd rather turn around and say, you know what, maybe I want to have a little bit of control. Not 100% control. You want to make it restricted, let other parents spread. You can pay with your money and buy all the books you want. I'm not asking you to ban them from the stores. Just don't force my kid to read it in front of the class. Don't stick it in the library and say, hey, you in the school library and say, you kids should listen. This is
Slaughterhouse-Five.
Joe Boy, that book about
Yeah,
that book banning in Tampa was about a woman gave the book to a child who was reading about child trafficking in Tampa, which apparently is rampant. And that's what she's reading to the class. So how, is that really something that should be banned or she gets hurt for or penalized for? Child awareness of trafficking? Jesus, terrible. Pull my hair out.
Movies in classrooms too. That's a whole nother one.
You know what, though, but look at all the other, like we have movies and video games, and I mean, and they have certain labels and, and not necessarily censorship, that's not necessarily the right term, but there are parameters basically stating, hey, this is appropriate for this age bracket. So it is something that it's
a parent has to buy it for them.
It's something that, you know what I mean? It's, to go into some of the older, whatever it was, X-rated, R-rated, whatever, to where you had to be accompanied by an adult to sit there. So, I mean, there are, parameters within our society that state, we need to be protective of our younger, most influential age brackets. And I think that's overall, that's the theme on the right. So.
Well, probably good summary on that.
With that.
Hey, Bob, I got one last thing to say, Bob, and I think it's a subject for a super next
Hold on,
topic.
Ted?
Go ahead.
No, you go. That's all right. Joe's already saying again. Yeah.
Basically, I think this guy named Scott Galloway is a great writer, and he has a belief that we're losing a generation of men. Less and less men are going to college, less and less are graduating from college, less and less men are educated, and there's a greater disparity between men in their 18s and 20s and early 30s with the graduate and intellectual level with women. And I think this plays into it. Are we creating a generation of incel men because of all this stuff that's proper and improper and what they get information and where they get information and how they process information? And it leads to certain things like, oh, I don't know, a presidential assassination kid, a couple of weeks ago in Pennsylvania.
I can assure you the potential adversaries of the U.S. militarily or otherwise are looking exactly at what you said. Okay. And I won't say why I know that. All right.
Well, if we think we can have a topic on that, it may not, we'll have to see how we could frame that, Ted, and, say, okay, where do we think it's coming from? Because, on this show, I knew that when we were talking about this, I knew right where it would go. I'm glad Jeff brought up those other books that have been banned in the past. We didn't really talk about those. And of course, Peter took it more from a censorship standpoint. Obviously, we can talk more about that stuff, you know, in a half hour, how much can we really handle? I think everybody understands the age appropriateness of the whole thing. I hate the fact, you know, that, but here's what I know. We're together, we're learning, and we'll get better. And we will see you on the next after show.
Go to the YouTube, go to the chat on YouTube and see the videos. There are a couple videos up there.
Gallery.